Rail freight investments in France are making it to the news headlines lately. What are they all about and what will they change? We will find out in today's Rail Freight Live. Hello everyone, it's Friday 15 October and today's discussion will focus in terminal openings, a governmental support scheme and new partnerships, all of them taking place in France. For this purpose we have arranged two exclusive interviews, one with Paul Mazataud from SNCF Réseau and one with Hans-Jurgen Weidemann, the CEO of CargoBeamer. But before we proceed to the main topic of today's show, we have something special arranged. We're going to connect live with a familiar figure, Majori van Leyen specifically, the editor-in-chief of RailFreight.com, who is currently in Hungary. Majori, hello?
Yes.
Can you hear us?
Hello, everyone. Yes.
Hello,
I
hello.
have a small problem. I cannot hear you, Nikos.
You cannot hear me?
I cannot hear you, but let me just tell you what's happening here.
Yes,
otherwise
of course.
It's going to be a hard conversation. But
Of course.
Yes, I'm in Hungary. I'm in Penyes-Vitke, to be precise. That's 5 kilometers away from Ukraine. And currently, as you can see, a terminal is being constructed here, and that is the East-West Gate Terminal. We just arrived by this train here, all the way from Budapest. And on this side, you can see that the tracks are being laid. A little bit further in the background, you can see some buildings popping up already. But yes, 3 months ago, there was absolutely nothing here. And in about 2 months, the first test trains are going to start. So what is happening here? There's currently a press conference going on in the back. I'm going to attend it and write about it, of course. And the contract with the software supplier, Maxware, is signed at this very moment. And a lot of local presence is here. A lot of high officials are here to welcome this train. It's obviously a very welcome project here.
All right, thank you very much, Majori. Unfortunately, we did not have the chance to discuss much, but next week you're going to return with a detailed report on your adventure in Hungary. So please, everybody stay tuned for next Friday show. Now, as we promised, today's show is all about France. A few days ago, CargoBeamer officially inaugurated its new terminal in Calais, northern France. Today, this morning actually, we had an interview with Hans-Jurgen Weidemann, the CEO of the company. So let's see what he had to say about the event. So, Mr. Weidemann, you had an interesting couple of days in Calais with the inauguration ceremony of the CargoBeamer terminal. Who was present there and what are the key takeaways from these 2 days?
Yes, good morning. Yes, we had a very, very interesting 2 days, fascinating 2 days actually. Our guests were representatives from the European Union, the French state, the region Hauts-de-France and the city of Calais, as well as many business partners. And it was really fast. So we had a 2-day event and it was really, we showed our technology. We had lots of talks. The discussions centered around our terminal in Calais, its capabilities and the value for European transport and the need of more terminal capacity in Europe.
Mm-hmm. The terminal was constructed with the support of the EU and the regional authorities, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, we had support from very strong support from the city of Calais, the region Hauts-de-France, the French state, and the EU, of course.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think made them invest in the CargoBeamer terminal in Calais?
I mean, the EU is proposing the Green Deal, and a need for the Green Deal is to really shift road transport from road to rail. Rail is much more environmentally friendly, and for that you need to load semi-trailers. 70% of the road, or even more, of road transports are heavy semi-trailers, and they need to be shifted to rail. For that we need terminals along the EU 10T corridors, foremost. So it's a terminal capability which is needed, and the need for the Green Deal, which made the EU to invest as well in CargoBeamer.
Mm-hmm. And were they happy with the final result?
I think so. The terminal was presented, and we had first loadings, and the terminal is fully automated. It operates very silent. It's impressive to see it. You just see a couple of trailers entering a train, fully automated without any crane, very silent, smooth. And so I think everybody was a bit impressed. And we were happy.
That's good. But the terminal in Calais has already been operational, if I'm not mistaken, right? For a couple of months now.
Yes, we have a first service. Since July, we have a first service to Perpignan, south of France. And the service is very stable. We have 4 or 5 round trips a week. We have first customers, and we are happy with the performance, actually.
So you have a stable connection with Perpignan. Any other connections that you have in mind?
We will start in October as a connection to Italy, Domodossola from Calais. And we have, of course, in mind other connections to Germany and to further Eastern Europe. So Calais is, there are many routes from many industrial regions in Europe go into the UK via Calais and as well to northern France, not to forget.
How many trains per month can the terminal facilitate?
Germany can handle 12 trains a day. And so if we have 20 days or 24 days, it's between 200 and 300 trains per month, for example.
All right.
So capacity. So we need 2 hours for a train, and the machinery is able to unload and reload the train in 20 minutes. But then, of course, you have other processes such as train inspection or moving trailers around. So we count up to 12 trains a day.
Okay. Recently, you also announced a new collaboration as well with Eurotunnel. What is the service all about, and is it more complicated due to the Brexit?
I mean, the Brexit, of course, complicates road transport into the UK and their customs processes and so on. So that's as well one reason why we teamed up with Eurotunnel. Eurotunnel is very professional and capable of forwarding trailers across the tunnel and handling customs processes. With the combined services, CargoBeamer and Eurotunnel are able to offer to the customer transport right from Perpignan, Italy or Germany into the UK without the need for trucks or drivers for the service company. So the trucks are the trailers are forwarded from our terminal via the tunnel into the UK. And that's fascinating. So the customer has a full service, one-stop shop for trailers to be handled from south of France, from Italy and Germany into the UK directly.
All right. And according to your yearly overview, you have some more terminals coming in the following months, right?
Yes, we are opening Domodossola, which is an existing terminal which we bought. We plan as well to build our own technology into the terminal, and that will start next year. And we are in the authorization process of our terminal in Kaltenkirchen, which we already use as well. We still use reach trackers from a partner company and RailTerminal, but we plan to install our own technology in Kaltenkirchen, and we expect authorization end of the year, maybe beginning next year. So building the terminal. And we have more places in Europe, in Germany and other places where we want. So we want to increase the number of terminals to a number of more than 20. It's definitely needed. We need to shift more road transports to rail. Okay,
then we'll keep in touch for more CargoBeamer terminal related developments. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Weidemann.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Thanks to you.
Bye. Apart from Calais, there are more things happening in France currently. Paul Mazataud, head of RailFreight at SNCF Réseau, explained everything in an interview exclusively this morning. So, Paul, welcome and thank you for accepting our invitation for this interview today.
My pleasure. Good morning.
So the discussion is going to be all about French investments in rail freight. From what we know, the French government aims to invest 170 million euros to the sector. Why do you think this investment is necessary?
Well, it is necessary because when you look at the past, the rail freight in France has suffered a significant decline for 40 years between, say, 1970 and 2010. For the last 10, 12 years, it has been more or less flat. However, the market share of rail freight in France is about 9%. and that's not satisfactory if you compare it to the European average, which is more around 18%. So there is this belief, which is shared by the sector and by the government, that there is a potential for growth for RailFreight in France. So the main idea is that the government wants to boost RailFreight in France.
So it's all about boosting the market share of RailFreight, or let's say it's all about the modal shift, right?
Exactly. Basically, railway undertakings and operators expect that with this kind of support, the market share of RailFreight could be doubled in 10 years.
Okay, that's an interesting number. Now, we have heard that part of the 170 million euros is going to be invested in truck access charges. Is this the only place that the funding is going to be allocated, or is there more?
Well, this 170 million support could be divided into 4 pieces. The first one is actually to support single wagon, that's 70 million. The second one is to support combined transports, and that's 47 million. The third one is to support the rail transport of semi-trailers in what we call rolling highways, and that's 15 million. And the remaining is, as you said, to fund a reduction of the track access charges. So this means that RailFreight operators will pay less. They will pay approximately half of what they used to pay. But the railway infrastructure manager, SNCF Réseau, will continue to receive the same amount of money. The difference will be paid by the government.
Okay. And from the 3 segments that you mentioned before, combined transport, single wagon transport, and semi-trailer transport, which one does need more boosting in France?
Well, I think that all of them need some sort of boost. But I think that the perspective is different. For combined transport and semi-trailers, there is a clear trend for increase in France and in the rest of Europe. And so that's clearly the segment where everybody expects the higher growth. But this will be even better if it's supported by the government.
Okay.
For single wagon, that's a more defensive support because in the past, single wagon has been in the decline. And so this support is here to make sure that there could be a reversal and that at least the decline is stopped, and hopefully there will be again some sort of growth.
And apart from this funding, are there any other investments that the French government is planning currently?
Absolutely. This first funding that we just mentioned is 170 million per year, but that's only for the operators, railway undertakings and combined transport operators.
And you said 170 million per year for how many years?
For 3 years.
For 3 years.
2022, 2023, and 2024. It may last longer, but for the moment, that's for 3 years.
Okay.
But then the government is working on a second plan, which this time will be here to support the infrastructure. And this time, this is a 1 billion plan, which again will be at least for 3 years, maybe a bit more.
1 billion, that's a lot of money, right?
Absolutely. And this is going to support many types of investments on the infrastructure. So this could be the last miles. This could be about loading gauge. This could be investments to increase capacity to make sure that the railway network can accept long trains or heavy trains. It's also about ports. All kind of investments in the railway infrastructure could be potentially covered by this plan.
In an event last week in Luxembourg, the Deputy Prime Minister of Luxembourg mentioned something about his country participating also in the funding of French infrastructure upgrades. Is this true? And if so, how much will the participation of Luxembourg will be?
Well, to be frank, I don't know the details of this information, but that does not come as a surprise, as there is significant traffic, RailFreight traffic between Luxembourg and France, either from Luxembourg to Spain through France, or from Luxembourg to Swiss and Italy through Spain. There's a very important yard in Luxembourg, which is at Betembourg, and this yard has very important impact on traffic in France. So it's actually good news that there is some sort of joint effort from both the government of Luxembourg and the government of France.
It's a cooperation in order to improve cargo flows between the two countries, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Does the European Union back these investments at all, or is it, or are the money invested purely by the French government?
Well, actually, the way it works is that I told you that this will be a 1 billion investment, but the French government says that it will provide itself half of these investments, so that's 500 million euros. So this means that it needs other parties to fund the other 50%, again, another 500 million. And this could come either from the local authorities, like the regions. This could come from the shippers, which are concerned, or this could come from the European Union. And it's actually good timing because, as you know, there is this new so-called SEF2 program, and there's actually a SEF call which has been launched in September. So we have an opportunity to complement the investment of the French government with EU money, and we are currently working on preparing applications for this. Typically, this could be interesting for investments on the loading gauge or on various investments on the infrastructure to increase capacity or to accept longer trains, things like this.
All right. Now, apart from the investments in infrastructure, lately we saw that SNCF Réseau packed an agreement with VNF, which is the navigation authority responsible for the management of France's inland waterways network. What is this cooperation all about?
Well, it's actually a very interesting cooperation, very promising, I must say. Inland waterways and railways are both modes of transport which are very ecological, and to a large extent we are complementary. The strength of inland waterways is that rivers can go even inside the big cities. Like if you take the Seine River, it goes through Paris. The strength of the railway network is that it's very long. It goes more or less everywhere in the French territory and even on the European territory. So if we combine these two strengths, we could have a good system that will enable goods to come from more or less everywhere in Europe and directly inside the big cities. So we think that we will probably concentrate on cooperation for a certain platform where there will be both inland waterways and railway infrastructures. And we think that with this cooperation, we should be able to increase the market share of the so-called soft modes of transport, i.e. inland waterways and rail.
No, yeah, this is a very interesting cooperation, to be honest. And I'm wondering, are the two managers going to invest in joint projects, maybe?
Well, there are a lot we can do. Probably we can concentrate on a few platforms and to make sure that we increase the way it works. I don't know whether this will be on infrastructure investments or on processes. To make sure that the fact that the shift from rail to inland waterways or to inland waterways in these platforms work smoothly. It could also be commercial cooperation, like when we go and see clients, we go together and we provide a combined package to these clients.
Mm-hmm.
So this is in the building at this moment, but certainly we will consider all kind of aspects.
Mm-hmm.
If this cooperation can put us in a better situation to convince new shippers to go on either inland waterways or on the rail or on the combination of the two.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that's very interesting, as I mentioned. So we're really looking forward to see how this whole concept will develop. Now, as a closing remark, Paul, the Connecting Europe Express had its last stop in Paris, France. Mm-hmm. Yes, France is an important part of RailFreight, but how has the European Year of Rail been for the country so far? Was it valuable? Did you make any changes that will make an impact in the future, or do you need more European Years of Rail?
Well, at this moment, RailFreight in France is 60% domestic and 40% international. And international means European. Mm-hmm. So clearly, the European part of the RailFreight market is crucial for this sector. Mm-hmm. There has been some improvements thanks to support from the European Commission, by the way. Mm-hmm. For instance, there has been a new line between the port of Le Havre and the region of Paris, which has been funded partly by the European Commission, partly by the French government, and partly by the local authorities. But still, there is some work to do to improve interoperability, like ERTMS, both on track and on board. Also, we know that loading gauge in France is still a little bit restricted, specifically to ensure the fact that P400 semi-trailers could be transported by RailFreight. So I think that we are all very conscious on improvements which could be done in France to make it even more friendly for shippers in France, and especially in the context of international connections. I believe that the plan of the French government, if it is supported by the European Commission, will be a super opportunity to help this international development of the rail network, or the French rail network.
All right. Then, Paul, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
And we'll see each other again soon, hopefully.
Yes, thank you very much. With pleasure.
As we saw, investments in French rail freight aim to take the country sector to the next level. However, there are some investments taking place in the Netherlands too. For that purpose, last Tuesday we traveled to Arnhem, where we met with the representatives of the Railterminal Gelderland, which is soon to be constructed. We are in Arnhem, where the Railterminal Gelderland is hosting an event for possible investors to build the terminal. We're going to meet some people and learn what this project is all about. Why did you choose this exact location?
Well, it's of course along the Betuwe route, which is a main corridor for transporting all types of goods, and the trains are not able to stop in the province at the moment, and we want to develop, of course, a terminal to provide this opportunity for companies around, and also in a little bit further area around, so they can put all kinds of goods in containers or other options and transport it by train to the other parts of Europe.
Well, there are many terminals in the Netherlands. How could this new terminal in this area bring added value to the Dutch RailFreight services?
Yeah, we of course looked into that, because we don't want to develop a terminal which is not valid, which can't be exploited in a profitable way. So we checked and we had a look at all the existing terminals, rail as well as water terminals, and there is a possibility to to have freight, which is now transported by car, by trucks.
And what about competition with other rail freight terminals?
So what we found out is that freight is coming from more the northern part of the Netherlands, more from the eastern part, from Arnhem, in the area of Arnhem. So this is all freight which is not going to Venlo, which is going to, now is basically transported by truck.
Okay, so what kind of transport flows will you focus on? What kind of traffic will you try to attract in Valburg?
Basically it's a long distance going to the eastern part of Europe, so you think about Poland, and then also of course to the southern part of Italy, which is along the basic corridors which we try to develop in Europe for rail freight.
What made it possible to actually go and take the next step and start building the terminal?
Yeah, I think it's what is a great push is that logistics are coming up, and there are more developments in the area around Nijmegen, which also attract companies which are into logistics. So we have this Park 15 on the other side of the A15, opposite the future rail terminal, and you see that the province wants to concentrate and wants to develop this area as a logistic hub.
What would be the time frame for the terminal's completion?
Yeah, the time frame would be 2025, medio 2025, when we think the terminal will be operational. Because in the meantime, we still have to construct some roads. We have to make the connection with the Betuwe route, and then of course a new investor or company who wants to exploit the terminal also has to build the rail terminal, and then that takes time. Yeah.
Can you describe a bit about its capacity? How is it going to look like? How big it's going to be?
Yeah. Well, we are. There will be 3 rail tracks, so it's about 750 meters each of the tracks. So we are. There is a possibility with the newest train types you can enter in the rail terminal, and you have a provision for loading and unloading. Of course, there will be some buildings, but basically only to provide the services for the terminal itself. And then what we are thinking is very important as a province is that it's a sustainable terminal. So that means that the trains won't be coming into the terminal with diesel locomotives, but they will be coming straight from the Betuwe route. They call this Schwungeinfahrt in German and momentum access in English. So there won't be any stop. They just enter the terminal straight away, and at the end of the terminal they can use the electricity, the electric wires again to exit the terminal again.
And with that, we have reached the end of today's show. Thanks everyone for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay updated for the latest news of the industry. Goodbye for now, and see you next Friday.
En ook u kunt hier zitten, want deze coronaproof studio is te huur voor uw congres, vergadering of webinar. We hebben alle techniek in huis om u hierbij te helpen. Kijk voor meer informatie op promedia.nl. Ik zie u graag in onze studio.